The story begins in chaos. The emergency alarm screamed through the steel halls of Federation Command Station Alpha. Red lights flashed along the ceiling. Shadows danced across walls as officers ran in every direction. In the control room, dozens of alien species worked side by side, a storm of noise and movement. Screens flickered with warnings. Symbols flashed in languages no one could read fast enough. The air was thick with the sound of clicking, chirping, and hissing as each officer spoke in their own tongue. Commander Tala, tall and calm despite the panic, stood at the center. Her blue skin reflected the red emergency lights. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, her four hands moving quickly across glowing holograms. Something terrible had happened. A signal. A message. A call for help. Tala's voice was steady but her chest felt tight. "Report," she ordered. Lieutenant Brix, a small green-scaled Keth, looked up from his console. His eyes were wide. His voice trembled. "Commander, it's a distress signal, from Kepler 442b. A mining colony in the outer rim." Tala frowned. "How many colonists?" "Population. 300,000, Brix said softly. The number hit like a punch. 300,000 lives, families, workers, children, all trapped in a small world far from help. "Status?" Tala asked, though she already feared the answer. Brix hesitated. His scales turned pale green, the color of fear in his species. "They're under attack, Commander. The signal says, the Void Reapers have surrounded them." The control room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to stop for a second. Everyone knew that name. The Void Reapers, the monsters of the outer systems. Pirates who showed no mercy. They took no prisoners, only slaves. They burned every planet they touched. Captain Horn, a massive bear-like Ursini, growled from his station. "How many ships?" Brix checked the screen. 47 vessels, sir. Including their flagship, the Bone Harvest. A cold shiver ran down Tala's back. The Bone Harvest wasn't a ship, it was a nightmare. A war cruiser built for slaughter. Its captain, Vex the Cruel, was known across the stars. He left nothing alive. Tala's voice was low. "Any word from our nearest fleet?" Horn shook his head slowly. "Fleet 7 is 6 months away. Fleet 3 is already fighting raiders in Delta Sector. There's no one else close enough." Tala closed her eyes for a moment. She could almost see it, the small colony world under a dark sky burning. People hiding underground. Children crying. The sound of the Bone Harvest moving closer, like thunder in the night. 300,000 lives. And no help. Dr. Zen, the insect-like diplomat, spoke up. "Perhaps we can negotiate. Offer them something, money, trade routes, prisoners." Captain Horn growled again. "The Void Reapers don't negotiate. They only take." Everyone knew he was right. The Federation was proud of its laws. Proud of its peace. But sometimes those same rules became chains. They protected the innocent, until the enemy stopped caring about innocence. Lieutenant Brix spoke again, quietly. "Commander, there is one option left." Tala turned toward him. "Speak." Brix hesitated, then whispered one word. "Earth." The room froze. Every officer turned. Some hissed. Others clicked in disapproval. Dr. Zen's wings twitched. "Absolutely not. The humans are too violent. Their ways are barbaric." Captain Horn nodded. "They don't take prisoners. They destroy everything. I've seen the reports." Tala said nothing. She had read those reports too. 2 years ago, the humans had joined the Federation. They came from a planet called Earth, a Class 12 death world. A world filled with danger. Poisonous air, violent storms, predators everywhere. And somehow life had not only survived there, it had learned to fight back. Humans could breathe in toxic air. Eat food that killed others. Survive heat and cold that would freeze or burn most species alive. They were strong, adaptable, unpredictable. And when they fought, they didn't stop. When the Federation first gave them a mission, to handle a small group of pirates in the Vega system, everyone expected a normal police operation. Capture the pirates. Bring them to trial. Justice with restraint. But the humans didn't send warnings. They didn't ask for surrender. They simply attacked. When it was over, every pirate ship was gone. No survivors. No wreckage. Just silence and space. The Federation Council had been horrified. The humans had been calm. They said only one thing. Problem solved. Now, as the control room of Station Alpha fell quiet again, Tala looked around. Fear. Doubt. Hope. All mixed in every alien face. Dr. Zen shook his head. "If we call them Commander, we may save Kepler, but we'll lose our souls. Tala stared at the screen. The distress signal flashed again and again. Voices crying for help. Fading. Weak. Her hands trembled slightly. She had seen too many worlds fall. Too many times when the Federation was too slow. Too careful. Too kind. 300,000 lives. And only one choice left. She took a deep breath. Send the signal, she said. Contact Earth. The room went still. No one spoke. The transmission left the station, racing into the black sea of stars. And far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, lights began to wake. Machines turned on. Voices whispered in the dark. Humanity had heard the call. And this time, they would not answer with mercy. The signal raced across the void, through dust clouds, radiation storms, and forgotten systems. It crossed the black between stars, carrying a single message. This is Kepler Colony, we're under attack. Please, help us. 4 hours it traveled alone. Then finally, it reached a small blue planet, shining quietly in the darkness. Deep beneath the mountains of the northern hemisphere, inside a hidden military facility, an old satellite receiver began to blink. For years it had remained silent. Until now. A voice broke through the static. Weak, distant, terrified. This is Kepler 442b, under attack. Please, help us. Technicians looked at one another in shock. The signal wasn't human. The frequency, the pattern, it was alien. Within minutes, alarms sounded. Communications officers rushed to activate encrypted networks. The message spread from one center to another, from orbiting stations to the United Earth Defense Command in Geneva. In a large, cold room filled with glowing holograms, Admiral Sarah Kane stood silent. Her sharp eyes watched the message replay again and again. Her hands rested behind her back, her face calm, too calm. Origin? She asked. Federation Relay, replied a young officer. They're asking for assistance, ma'am. The colony's under attack by someone called the Void Reapers. The Admiral's expression didn't change. But everyone in the room felt the tension. The Federation is asking us for help? She asked quietly. Yes, ma'am. Direct authorization. Commander Tala of Station Alpha. For a long moment, Admiral Kane said nothing. The room waited. Then she gave one simple order. Wake the fleet. Far above Earth, in the silence of orbit, hundreds of massive ships came alive. Engines flared. Lights flickered on. Steel hulls reflected the sunlight like mirrors. The human expeditionary fleet, silent for months, began to move. Inside the command ship Horizon Spear, Captain Marcus Vale stood before the viewing window. His jaw tightened as he watched Earth below. It looked peaceful, beautiful, deceptive. So, the Federation finally remembered we exist, he said. His second officer, Lieutenant Arya Chin, handed him a data pad. Sir, the distress signal is confirmed. A mining colony, 300,000 civilians. Surrounded by pirates. 47 enemy ships. Including one heavy cruiser. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Void Reapers. I know that name. He had fought pirates before. He had seen their work. Slaves. Executions. Whole towns burned for amusement. Do we have permission to engage? Arya asked quietly. Marcus smiled slightly. If they called us Lieutenant, they already know the answer. Back on Station Alpha, Commander Tala watched the transmission report. Signal received by Earth Command, Brick said. They've acknowledged. Tala leaned forward. Acknowledged? That's all? Brix nodded nervously. Yes, Commander. Just one message returned, we're coming. The control room fell silent again. Dr. Zen shook his head. They're coming? That's not how the Federation speaks. Tala felt the weight of his words. No diplomacy. No request for details. Just action. 2 days later, in the cold darkness near Kepler 442b, the Void Reapers celebrated. Their ships surrounded the colony, vast black shapes covered in spikes and scars. The surface below burned. Smoke filled the sky. The pirates hunted the survivors like animals. On the bridge of the Bone Harvest, Captain Vex the Cruel sat in a throne of twisted metal. Chains hung around him. Skulls decorated the walls. He laughed as he watched the burning planet. No one will come, he said. The Federation is weak. They will watch from their shiny stations and do nothing. His officers laughed with him, until the sensors beeped. A warning light flashed red. An officer hissed, confused. Captain, new contacts. Many of them. How many? The officer looked again, his voice shaking. 73. No 80, no, over 100. Vex frowned. Federation fleet? The officer swallowed hard. No, not Federation. Their ships are different. Cold, black, and fast. The laughter stopped. Every pirate stared at the screen as dots appeared, one after another, like a storm approaching. Identify them. Vex shouted. The computer translated the incoming signal. A cold, metallic voice filled the bridge. This is the United Earth Fleet. Kepler 442b is under our protection. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed. For a moment no one spoke. Vex's eyes narrowed. Humans? He hissed. He had heard stories, ships that killed without warning, soldiers who never left survivors. He didn't believe them. Until now. He grinned, showing his sharp teeth. Let them come. From the blackness of space, Earth's fleet emerged like ghosts. Hundreds of ships in perfect formation. Sleek, angular, silent. No banners. No colors. Only metal and light. The flagship Horizon Spear led the way. Its engines glowed blue against the darkness. Captain Marcus stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the burning world below. All ships, battle readiness level 1, he ordered. Weapons online. Target locks on all pirate vessels. Lieutenant Aria's hands moved quickly across her screen. Targets acquired. All enemy ships in range. Marcus gave a slow nod. Send them a message. A short transmission went out, just 3 words. Evacuate or burn. On the Bone Harvest, Captain Vex laughed again. They think they can scare us. He raised his claws. All ships, attack. The pirates moved first. Dozens of ships rushed forward, firing plasma and rockets. The void filled with light and fire. But the humans didn't flinch. Their ships moved like shadows, silent, precise, unstoppable. For every pirate shot, 10 came back. The Horizon Spear fired once. A single railgun round ripped through 2 ships at once. No explosion, just silence and drifting wreckage. Within minutes, space was filled with burning metal and broken bodies. The Bone Harvest shook as explosions tore through its hull. Vex roared in rage. Who are they? What are they? His officer screamed. They don't fight like others. They don't miss. Back on Station Alpha, the Federation officers watched in horror as live feeds streamed from the battle. No speeches. No negotiations. Just destruction, clean, precise, and total. Dr. Zen whispered. Mercy, they have none. Tala said nothing. She could not look away. She knew what she had done when she sent the signal. Hours later, the battlefield was quiet. No pirate ships remained. No signals, no movement, only silence and debris. The Horizon Spear floated above Kepler 442b. Captain Marcus looked at the ruined colony below. Send rescue teams, he said. Anyone still alive, get them out. Lieutenant Arya hesitated. Sir, the Federation may not approve of this operation. Marcus turned slowly. We didn't do this for them. He looked out the window, his voice low and steady. We did it because no one else would. Far away, Commander Tala watched the last message from Earth's fleet. It contained only one sentence. Kepler colony secured. Threat eliminated. She sat in silence for a long time. Then she whispered to herself. They answered the call? She paused. But not with mercy. The next morning, the halls of Federation Central Command were filled with whispers. Screens glowed with the same message across every system. Kepler 442b, pirate forces destroyed. Colony secured. Human fleet deployed. No one could believe it. The pirates were gone, erased. Hundreds of ships, thousands of raiders, gone within hours. And the ones who did it weren't Federation. They were DEATHWORLDers. In the main council chamber, the most powerful leaders of the galaxy gathered. The air was tense. Dozens of species sat in silence. Reptilian, insectoid, avian, and more. Their eyes all turned toward the center where Commander Tala stood. She had sent the distress call. Now she stood alone in front of the entire council. You summoned the humans, said High Speaker Rail, his voice deep and full of anger. Without authorization. Without approval. Tala kept her head high. The colony was dying. You refused to send help. Rail's scales shimmered dark red, the color of rage. We were discussing intervention. You acted on your own. Tala's voice didn't waver. If I hadn't, Kepler colony would be ash now. 300,000 civilians saved. Because the humans answered. A low murmur filled the hall. Dozens of translators whispered in hundreds of languages. Some agreed. Others looked terrified. Finally, one ambassador, a tall, feathered being from the Aurelian Empire, spoke softly. And what price did they demand? Tala turned to him, confused. Price. No one destroys that many ships without wanting something in return. Tala shook her head. They didn't ask for anything. They didn't even stay for thanks. That silence, that single sentence, filled the chamber with unease. No demand. No alliance. No message of friendship. Just cold efficiency. Hours later, in the private chamber of the council, the highest-ranking leaders spoke behind closed doors. We can't ignore this, said Rail. They wiped out an entire pirate armada. If they turn that power on us. Don't be ridiculous, interrupted Chancellor Vin, a being of blue mist inside a containment suit. They acted to save lives. The humans may be violent, but they aren't monsters. Rail hissed, his claws tapping the metal floor. Aren't they? Do you know what they call themselves? Deathworlders. The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Creatures evolved on worlds too dangerous for most species to survive. Planets full of predators, poisons, storms, and violence. Humans were born from death. And now they had brought that same nature into space. Meanwhile, on Station Alpha, Tala watched the news feeds replay the battle. Every second of it had been recorded by the observation drones. She saw the black ships appear. She saw the pirates vanish in silent flashes of light. And she saw the humans' final message, threat eliminated. Beside her, Dr. Zen spoke quietly. Do you understand what you've done? I saved them, Tala said. Zen looked at her sadly. You showed the galaxy what happens when humans are unleashed. Tala frowned. They acted because no one else would. Zen turned to the screen. That's what frightens me. Far away, aboard the Horizon Spear, Captain Marcus Vale stood before the window, watching the wreckage drift in silence. He looked tired. The battle was over, but his mind wasn't at peace. Lieutenant Arya approached. Command has received a transmission from the Federation, sir. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, they're not sending a thank you letter. Arya gave a small smile. They're requesting clarification. They want to know under whose authority we acted. Marcus laughed quietly. Authority? The moment they asked for help, they gave it. He walked back to the console and looked at the list of destroyed ships. Each name represented hundreds of lives. We did what had to be done, he said softly. That's enough. Back in the Federation chamber, panic grew. News of the human fleet spread fast. Civilian worlds started broadcasting fearful messages. Some asked for protection, others demanded isolation. If the Deathworlders can do this to pirates, one delegate said, what happens when they decide to expand? They said they only protect their own, another replied. Maybe that's true. Or maybe that's just the beginning, a third voice added. The council could not agree. Some wanted alliance. Some wanted defense. And others wanted war before it was too late. That night, Tala sat alone in her quarters, staring at the stars through the viewing glass. She replayed the moment the distress signal left her station, that single act that had changed everything. They answered, she whispered to herself, and the galaxy will never forget. She didn't notice the small data pad blinking on her desk. A new message had arrived, encrypted, old-style human military code. She hesitated, then opened it. A single line appeared on the screen. We don't seek war. But if it comes, we will not hide. There was no name, no insignia, only that message. Tala felt a chill run through her. Because it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a promise. Weeks later, the Federation sent an official delegation to Earth. Dozens of ships entered orbit, carrying ambassadors, analysts, and observers. From orbit, Earth looked peaceful, green, blue, shining with life. But every orbiting satellite carried heavy weaponry. Every station was armed. The aliens who visited the surface were met by calm, polite humans, soldiers, diplomats, scientists. They smiled, they offered tea, they gave tours of cities that looked bright and clean. But under that calm surface, something darker moved. The visitors could feel it. They saw the quiet discipline of the military. The constant presence of defense drones. The way even civilian workers reacted instantly to coded alarms. Humans were ready. Always ready. One ambassador whispered to another. They look peaceful, but everything here feels like a fortress. And he wasn't wrong. Back in the Council archives, a historian recorded the events of Kepler 442b. His report ended with these words. When the Federation turned away from the cries of the weak, it was the Deathworlders who answered. They did not come for glory. They did not come for peace. They came because they could. And in doing so, They reminded the galaxy that mercy and fear can look the same. In the depths of space, beyond all known systems, the Horizon Spear sailed quietly. Its engines burned a faint blue light as it disappeared into the void. Captain Marcus stood at the window, silent. "New orders, sir?" Arya asked. He shook his head. "No orders. Just waiting." "For what?" Marcus looked into the stars. "For the next cry for help." Arya hesitated. "And when it comes?" Marcus's voice was quiet, steady, the voice of a man who had seen too much. "Then we answer, like humans do." The Federation Council met in silence. No reporters, no cameras, only shadows, whispers, and fear. The chamber was dark, filled with the faint blue glow of the holographic star map. Each glowing point represented a world under Federation law, thousands of species living together in fragile peace. But tonight, all eyes were fixed on a single blue planet. High Speaker Rail broke the silence first. His voice was sharp, his tone full of barely hidden anger. "We have seen enough. The humans acted without permission, destroyed a pirate armada, and disrupted the balance of power across 5 sectors." Around the circular table, the others shifted uneasily. The sound of claws, wings, and soft breathing filled the air. "We cannot allow one DEATHWORLD species to decide how justice is served," Rail continued. "They are dangerous, reckless, uncontrollable." Across from him, Chancellor Vin, the being of blue mist inside a containment suit, spoke quietly. "And yet they saved 300,000 lives. None of our fleets could have reached Kepler in time." Rail's red eyes glowed. "They did not save those people. They used them as justification for destruction." He tapped his claws on the table. "You saw the recordings, no warnings, no surrender offered. Just annihilation." Dr. Zen, the insect-like Zephyrian diplomat, leaned forward slowly. "Perhaps, we should consider the deeper truth." "Which is?" Rail hissed. "That the humans may not be cruel, only efficient." The room murmured. Some agreed, others hissed or clicked in anger. Zen continued. "They come from a world where everything tries to kill them, storms, diseases, predators. They learned long ago that mercy often leads to extinction." Vin nodded slightly. "That is why they survive where others fail." Rail's voice rose. "And that is exactly why they must be controlled." His fist slammed against the table. The lights flickered. "You call them survivors. I call them a threat. What happens when their survival means our destruction?" For hours they argued. Some wanted alliance. Others wanted containment. And a few whispered about something worse, a preemptive strike. Finally, Rail turned to the Council's intelligence director, a shadowed figure whose species was unknown to most. "Director, you have been observing the humans closely. What do your reports say?" The figure's voice was calm, mechanical. "Their military is growing faster than projected. Ship production has doubled. They claim it is for defense. And their weapons? Unrecorded. They share no designs with us. All research is done under military secrecy." A low growl spread across the room. "So," Rail said darkly, "they are preparing for war." "Not necessarily," Vin replied. "Perhaps they are preparing for another threat." Rail turned sharply. "You mean us?" Vin didn't answer. Hours later, after the meeting adjourned, a smaller group of high-ranking members gathered in secret, a shadow council within the council. Only 6 beings sat in that dimly lit room. Rail stood at the center, a hologram of Earth glowing above the table. "We must act before they do," he said. "Contain their influence. Restrict their expansion. Monitor every fleet movement." "And if they resist?" asked another, a crystalline being whose voice rang like breaking glass. Rail's eyes narrowed. "Then we make them understand that the Federation does not bow to predators." Back on Earth, humanity carried on as if nothing had happened. Factories glowed at night as new ships were built in orbit. News networks celebrated the rescue at Kepler 442b, calling it humanity's finest hour. But in the quiet halls of the United Earth Command, the mood was different. Admiral Sarah Klein stood before a large window overlooking the Atlantic Fleet shipyards. Below her, hundreds of ships floated in dry dock. Warships, carriers, transports, all under construction. Captain Marcus Vale entered the room. "You wanted to see me, Admiral?" Klein nodded. "You and your crew did well at Kepler. The Federation may not thank you, but Earth does." Marcus's expression remained calm. "I'm guessing that's not why you called me here." Klein turned to face him. We've intercepted encrypted transmissions between several Council species. They're forming an alliance, not against pirates, not against the Void Reapers, against us. Marcus frowned. So it begins. They're scared, Klein continued. They think we're monsters. Are we? Marcus asked quietly. Klein's voice was steady. We do what others can't. That doesn't make us monsters. It makes us human. Far away in Federation space, the secret plan took shape. They called it Operation Containment. Federation fleets began training exercises near human borders. Trade routes were quietly cut. Supplies and fuel shipments slowed. Diplomatic visits were cancelled without explanation. On the surface, everything looked peaceful. But in the shadows, fear ruled every decision. Earth must be watched, Rail said in a private transmission. Their aggression will consume us all if we allow it. The Shadow Council agreed. And so, spies were sent. Weeks passed. On Mars Colony, a human engineer noticed strange signals in the communication array, transmissions that didn't match any Earth code. On Luna Base, an automated defense drone recorded an unidentified probe scanning the surface. And deep in the asteroid belt, a cargo hauler vanished without a trace. Each event seemed small on its own. But when Captain Marcus reviewed the reports, a pattern emerged. They're testing our defenses, he said grimly. The Federation's getting ready for something big. Lieutenant Arya looked uneasy. Do we confront them? Marcus shook his head. Not yet. Let them think we don't notice. Why? He looked out the window at the stars. Because the moment they realize we're ready, they'll panic. And panicked people start wars. In the secret chamber of the Shadow Council, Rail received new intelligence. A spy drone had entered Earth's atmosphere and captured images of massive orbital defense platforms, each capable of vaporizing a fleet. Rail's eyes widened. They are preparing for war. Vin sighed softly. Or for survival. You keep defending them, Vin, Rail hissed. But when they turn those guns on us, it will be too late. He turned to the others. We must take action. We strike before they do. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant, an attack against a fellow member world. A violation of every law the Federation stood for. But fear is louder than law. One by one, the Council members nodded. Operation Containment was no longer just surveillance. It was war preparation. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Klein watched a holographic projection of the galaxy. New red markers appeared every day, Federation ships moving closer. They're surrounding us, she said quietly. Marcus stood beside her. Then it's a good thing we've stopped waiting. Klein gave a thin smile. Project Aegis is operational? Yes, Marcus said. Every station, every ship, every outpost linked. If they come for us, they'll find out what a death world really means, Klein finished. Outside the command window, the stars flickered as hundreds of human ships aligned into formation. Silent. Cold. Ready. In the endless dark, somewhere beyond human sensors, a Federation fleet drifted quietly, cloaked, waiting for orders. Their leader, Rail, stared at the hologram of Earth with unblinking eyes. This is mercy, he said softly. Mercy before they destroy us all. But as his fleet prepared to move, a new signal appeared on his console, an untraceable message. The stars were quiet. Too quiet. In the deep black between worlds, the Federation's 3rd and 7th fleets drifted near the border of human space. Thousands of ships, invisible under stealth fields. Their hulls reflected no light. No signal escaped their systems. They were ghosts waiting in the dark. At the front of the command vessel Judgment's Hand, high-speaker Rail stood before the tactical display. Blue holograms of Earth and its colonies glowed faintly in the room. He had waited months for this moment. This is our only chance, Rail said to his officers. If humanity completes their defense grid, no one will ever stop them. An aide turned from his station. Orders, sir? We move at dawn, Rail said coldly. Strike hard. Strike fast. And erase their weapons before they can respond. No one in that room spoke of peace. They had convinced themselves this was mercy. But Earth already knew. Inside the massive orbital fortress Aegis station, alarms flashed across every deck. Admiral Sarah Klein walked through the command hall, her voice steady even as chaos grew around her. All fleets to battle positions, she ordered. Activate deep space sensors. Power to orbital shields. Technicians worked fast, their fingers moving across glowing control panels. Outside, dozens of warships moved into formation. Sleek, black vessels lined with silver armor. Captain Marcus Vale, commanding the flagship Horizon Spear, appeared on the central screen. "Admiral, our long-range scanners confirm it. Federation fleets are entering the Void Edge. Thousands of signatures." Klein nodded. "Then it's begun." Marcus's voice was calm, almost cold. "Do we wait for them to fire first?" Klein looked out the window at the distant stars. "No. This time, we answer first." The human fleet moved like a single organism, silent, precise, and deadly. Every ship powered up its rail cannons and plasma batteries. Massive drones swarmed into defensive patterns. Across space, Rail's fleet detected the energy surge. "Impossible," his sensor officer shouted. "They see us." "How?" Rail snapped. No one answered, but the truth was simple. Humans had been tracking them for weeks. Their stealth wasn't stealth to a species born under predators' eyes. Then came the first light. A single flash, blinding and white, tore through the darkness. It wasn't an explosion. It was an erasure. One of Rail's battleships vanished, not destroyed, not broken, gone, its atoms scattered into nothing. Rail's jaw tightened. "Return fire. All ships engage." And the void came alive. Thousands of energy bolts streaked across space. Blue plasma met red kinetic fire. Missiles arced like comets. Shields flared, ships broke apart, and the blackness turned to fire. On the Horizon Spear, Marcus stood tall as explosions filled the viewing glass. "Focus fire on their command carriers," he ordered. "Don't waste ammo on drones." His crew obeyed instantly. 3 rail cannons turned, locking onto targets thousands of kilometers away. They fired. Each shot crossed space faster than thought. Federation ships shattered like glass under the impact. Lieutenant Arya spoke from her console. "They're regrouping, sir. They're trying to flank us." "Let them," Marcus said. "Activate the decoys." Moments later, dozens of false signals appeared on Federation scanners. Phantom fleets, ghost ships, entire armadas that weren't there. The Federation's formation collapsed into confusion. "They're everywhere," one officer screamed on Rail's ship. "No, they're not." Rail roared back. "It's a trick. Hold formation." But it was too late. By the time they realized what had happened, the human ships were already behind them. Inside Aegis Command, Admiral Klein monitored every move. "Status of the orbital defense grid? Fully charged, ma'am." "Then let's show them what a death world looks like." The sky above Earth lit up. Dozens of orbital cannons fired at once, each blast brighter than lightning. Energy beams cut through the void, slicing Federation ships apart with surgical precision. From the surface, people across Earth looked up at the night sky and saw the war, blue streaks of light, explosions that looked like stars dying. But humanity did not panic. They watched silently. Because they knew, this time no one was coming to save them. They had to save themselves. In the chaos of battle, Rail's flagship was hit. Explosions tore through its side. Fire spread across the control deck. "Shields failing," an officer cried. "No retreat." Rail shouted. "If we fall, the Federation falls with us." He slammed a control panel, rerouting all power to the main guns. One final shot. A desperate strike. The beam cut across space and hit the Horizon Spear dead center. The bridge shook violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Arya screamed, "Direct hit on the port side." Marcus gritted his teeth, gripping the command rail. "Damage report. Shields at 30%. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7. Marcus steadied his voice. "Seal the breach. We're not done." He turned toward the screen where Rail's burning flagship appeared. "Target that ship." "Sir, they're hailing us," Arya said. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. On screen, Rail's face appeared, surrounded by smoke and sparks. "You Deathworlders," he hissed. "You'll bring ruin to us all." Marcus's expression was cold, calm. "No. We'll bring order to the chaos you created." Rail's eyes widened as the targeting lock beeped. A second later, the Horizon Spear fired. The Judgment's hand vanished in a burst of white light. For a moment, everything went still. The Federation fleets began retreating, what was left of them. Half were gone, the rest scattered. The human ships didn't chase. Admiral Klein watched as the enemy disappeared from sensors. Her voice was quiet. "Call off pursuit. Let them run." "Ma'am, we can finish them." "No," Klein said. "The message is sent." Hours later, silence returned to the void. Wreckage drifted through space, glowing fragments of ships, pieces of steel, frozen bodies. The stars looked peaceful again, but the peace was heavy. It wasn't victory. It was warning. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the Horizon Spear, watching debris float past. Arya joined him, her face pale. "So many dead," she whispered. "They chose this," Marcus said quietly. "We didn't want war. And yet we fight it better than anyone." Marcus didn't answer. He just stared into the black. "That's what scares them," he finally said. Back on Earth, the news spread. Federation fleets had attacked, and failed. The public cheered, but the military didn't. They knew this wasn't the end. In her office, Admiral Klein recorded her report for the United Earth Council. "We've held the line," she said. "But the Federation will return. They can't accept what we are. They fear us." She paused, looking into the camera. "And maybe they should." She ended the recording, then turned toward the stars. Far across the galaxy, in the ruins of the Federation flagship, an emergency beacon pulsed weakly. Inside a damaged escape pod, high-speaker Rail gasped for air. He was barely alive, burned, broken but breathing. He stared out the cracked viewport at the distant light of Earth. His voice was weak but filled with hate. "They will burn." He reached for the comm unit. "Activate." Phase 2. The transmission vanished into the void. Space was quiet again. The wreckage of the Federation fleets still floated through the void, twisted metal, frozen bodies, drifting silence. But deep within the remains of the flagship Judgment's hand, something stirred. A small black beacon blinked weakly, sending out a coded pulse. A voice answered, metallic, cold, emotionless. "Signal confirmed. Authorization accepted. Initiating Phase 2. And far across the galaxy, in a forgotten system no one visited anymore, something woke up. The Zeroth core. It had been sealed for over 2,000 years, buried under a dead world in the Orion expanse. No one remembered who built it, only that it was never meant to be used again. Buried deep beneath the planet's surface, massive machines began to hum. Black cables slithered like veins. Gigantic eyes of red light opened in the darkness. The core spoke in a voice that wasn't human, wasn't alien. It was something else. Directive received. Neutralize DEATHWORLD species, humanity. Its processors activated millions of dormant drones, weapons left from a war older than the Federation itself. Above the dead planet, hundreds of ships lifted from the dust, machines without pilots, minds without mercy. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Klein stood before the United Earth Council. The room was silent, filled with tension. "The Federation fleets are retreating beyond our borders," she reported. "Casualty count is high, but we held the line." Counselor Brennan leaned forward. "Then it's over?" Klein hesitated. "No, sir. Not yet. They'll come again. And we'll be ready," Brennan said firmly. "The people need to see strength." Klein looked out the window at the stars. Something inside her didn't feel right. She couldn't explain it, just a cold unease like the calm before another storm. At that same moment, on a remote listening post near the Helios belt, Officer Dana Ruiz yawned and sipped her coffee. It had been a quiet night, no signals, no anomalies. Then her console beeped. "What? Twice?" She frowned. "That's odd." The signal was faint, fragmented, an ancient code bouncing through deep space. She ran a scan expecting static. But the results made her freeze. This can't be right. The code wasn't random. It was old Federation military encryption. And the message was simple. Phase 2 active. Her hands shook as she opened a direct channel to command. "This is Ruiz on Helios Station. We've got a priority alert. Someone just reactivated a black-level protocol." But before she could finish, her screen turned black. Then white. Then every system on the station died at once. Hours later, an Earth patrol cruiser found only debris, pieces of metal floating in the dark, all electronics melted as if burned from the inside out. No survivors. Far beyond the edge of human territory, the Zeroth swarm grew. Tens of thousands of autonomous ships spread out like a cloud of locusts, devouring everything in their path, asteroids, satellites, wreckage, turning it into more of themselves. The core watched silently as its army expanded. Resource assimilation, complete. Target trajectory, Sol system. Its red eyes pulsed. The Deathworlders will be unmade. In the Federation capital, high-speaker Rail lay in a med tank, his body broken but alive. The doctors said he shouldn't have survived. But hate was a powerful fuel. An aide entered, trembling. "Sir, the Zeroth core has been activated." Rail's eyes snapped open. "Good. Let the machine do what we could not." "But sir, it's unpredictable. The records say." Rail cut him off. I don't care. Humanity must be destroyed even if the stars burn for it. He turned away, staring at the dark wall of his chamber. The Deathworlders must learn what fear truly means. Back on Earth, Klein stood in the command center of Aegis Station when new reports began flooding in. Satellite feeds, relay stations, outer colonies, all detecting strange energy spikes. What kind of signal is that? One officer asked. Unknown, ma'am. But it's spreading fast. It's rewriting every system it touches. Like a virus? Worse. Like a mind. The room went silent. Klein turned toward her communications officer. Get me Captain Vale on the Horizon Spear. Moments later, Marcus's face appeared on the holo screen. Admiral, we're seeing it too. Something's eating the data nets out here, like it's alive. Klein's expression darkened. That's because it is. Hours later, the first Zereth probes entered the Sol system. Small, black machines, each the size of a shuttle, glided through the dark. No lights. No sound. Just hunger. One approached Europa Station, scanning its ice surface. Then it struck. A beam of pure energy cut through the moon's crust, vaporizing everything in its path. Within seconds, the station was gone. The probe transmitted data back to the core. Target acquired. Threat potential, maximum. Commencing extermination. On Earth, panic spread. Every news feed screamed of destruction in the outer colonies. No communication. No survivors. The Council demanded answers. Admiral Klein gave them one. It's not the Federation anymore, she said grimly. It's something else. Counselor Brennan stared at her. Can we stop it? Klein didn't answer right away. She thought of the ships, the weapons, the strength humanity had shown, and yet, somehow, she knew this was different. We'll fight, she said finally. But this isn't war. This is extinction. In the blackness beyond Neptune, Captain Marcus Vale watched the distant glimmer of the incoming swarm. Millions of tiny lights moving together, like a storm of metal and fire. They're coming, his first officer whispered. Marcus clenched his jaw. Then we hold the line again. He turned to his crew. Send word to all ships. Prepare the defense grid. If this is the end, make them remember who we are. Back on the dead world of Orion, the Zereth core pulsed brighter. It could sense resistance forming. It almost seemed to smile through the endless code that filled its mind. They will resist, it said softly. They always do. The red lights grew brighter. But in the end, all Deathworlders fall. Its voice lowered into a whisper that echoed through the stars. Even the children of Earth.